The vast ocean stretches endlessly in every direction, its surface shimmering under the blazing sun. For most sailors, the sea holds predictable rhythms, the same rolling waves, the same endless blue horizon, day after monotonous day. But sometimes the ocean reveals secrets that no one could ever imagine. Sometimes, in the middle of nowhere, you discover something so impossible, so utterly shocking, that it changes everything you thought you knew about the world. This is one of those stories. Life on the sea can be boring. Often, you might float on the waves for many days watching the exact same scenery and hearing identical sounds over and over. Just ask any boat captain. Ocean life gets repetitive and tiresome. Though most ocean days follow the same pattern, sometimes surprising things happen that will haunt you forever. The Sri Lankan Navy crew was about to experience something that would test every limit of human courage and determination. The Sri Lankan naval forces work to keep the ocean waters secure and safe. They cruise around the waters searching for people who need help or people who might want to harm others. On July 12, 2017, a Tuesday that would become unforgettable, the naval crew was sailing in their fast attack craft warship when they spotted something strange in the water exactly 8 nautical miles from the shoreline near Kokuthuduwai, Kokilai. The ocean was deep and chilly, so they figured it was probably some item that had dropped from a boat. As they moved closer, they couldn't believe their eyes. There was an elephant swimming in the ocean. The Navy team felt confused seeing this huge creature in the water, but the moment they realized what it was, they all jumped into action. The naval officers couldn't trust what they were seeing at first. They had never witnessed an elephant swimming in ocean waters. Whales, definitely. Sharks, absolutely. Elephants, never. Since elephants don't normally live in the sea, this was a really weird discovery. The Navy crew figured that the young elephant had been attempting to walk across the Kokilai Lagoon, a coastal body of water wedged into jungle on either side, right in the middle of an animal sanctuary between 2 stretches of wilderness, when the water suddenly started rushing in fast. They thought that the elephant might have gotten caught up in the rushing water and then swept out into the deep ocean. Luckily, elephants are actually quite capable swimmers with remarkable abilities. They're the closest land relatives to manatees and dugongs. As Joyce Poole, co-founder of Elephant Voices, explained to researchers, elephants are considered the best swimmers of any land mammal, perhaps excluding trained human swimmers. They have big, floating bodies that help them stay on top of the water. They also have long noses that work like breathing tubes, and their lungs have a unique structure that helps them handle pressure changes above and below water. This extraordinary adaptation is exactly how the elephant managed to stay alive in the ocean. Even though the elephant could swim well, he was becoming dangerously exhausted and fighting for his very life. The naval team didn't know exactly how long the elephant had been battling the merciless ocean waves, but they could see the terror in his struggle as he grew weaker and more distressed with each passing moment. Every breath was becoming a desperate fight for survival. They realized that without immediate intervention, this magnificent creature would drown before their eyes. The naval team looked at how big the elephant was, and they understood that they were going to need extra help. They immediately called for backup assistance. They knew that the elephant they decided to name Jumbo, though wildlife officials would later call him Alia Pulmodai, was in serious trouble and needed help fast. "We need more boats out here immediately," radioed the team leader desperately. "This elephant won't be able to keep swimming much longer." It wouldn't take long before the elephant would get too weak to swim by himself. They chose to bring in not just 1, but 4 naval ships total, along with 7 members of the elite Rapid Action Boat Squadron and wildlife experts. The Navy commander knew this would be what they later called a humongous task. They figured it would be smart to have animal specialists close by in case something went wrong with Jumbo. When the second naval ship and the wildlife team members arrived, they worked together and came up with a rescue plan. They figured out exactly how they were going to save Jumbo. Since the elephant was way too big to lift onto any of their boats, they were going to have to pull him back to shallow water. "There's no way we can get him on board," explained one of the wildlife officers. "We'll have to tow him back to shore very carefully. And we need to hurry. The salt water isn't good for his skin, and he's burning too much energy to survive much longer." The expert added grimly, "Elephants can normally swim up to 6 miles between islands, but 8 nautical miles in open ocean? That's beyond what any elephant can handle alone." They knew this rescue would take quite a while, because by the time their rescue mission started, Jumbo had drifted even farther into the deep ocean. He was now much more than 8 nautical miles away from the coast. Since he was a living animal who had to keep his head above water to breathe, they had to pull him very slowly and gently. The rescue team understood that this would be a long, difficult process, but they absolutely had to get Jumbo back to safety. The crew began the agonizing process of pulling Jumbo through the treacherous waters, knowing that every second counted in this life-or-death battle. Hour after torturous hour passed as they fought against time and the relentless ocean currents, but despite their best efforts, Jumbo seemed to be losing strength with each passing moment. The scene was absolutely heart-wrenching. The young elephant was almost completely submerged in the deep ocean waters, with crashing waves threatening to drown him at any moment, forcing him to desperately draw oxygen through his upturned trunk like a makeshift snorkel. His massive body was trembling with exhaustion as the salt water stung his sensitive skin. Dramatic photographs captured the desperate scene. Jumbo keeping his trunk above the water like a breathing tube while his eyes remained completely submerged beneath the surface, his spirit slowly breaking under the crushing weight of fatigue. The rescue team could see the life slowly draining from this majestic creature as he struggled against the overwhelming power of the ocean. He tried his best to keep his nose above the water every so often to get the oxygen he desperately needed, but each breath was becoming more labored, more painful. His movements were growing weaker and more desperate with each passing hour, and the rescue team began to fear the worst. They could tell that he was slipping away from them, his strength ebbing like the tide, and hope seemed to be fading fast. When darkness fell, the rescue operation continued through the night, with the searchlights cutting through the black water as the team raced against time. "Don't give up, Jumbo. Stay with us," one of the Navy divers shouted with raw emotion as he jumped from the ship and carefully tied a rope around the elephant's neck with trembling hands. "We won't let you die out here. Fight, Jumbo, fight." Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. The elephant's eyes, barely visible above the water, seemed to flicker with a desperate plea for salvation, but his trunk was beginning to dip lower into the water more frequently. For hours, it seemed like they might lose him. The mighty elephant was fighting a battle he appeared destined to lose. Then, just when all seemed lost, just when the rescue team was beginning to lose hope and fear that their 12-hour battle might end in tragedy, something miraculous happened. Jumbo seemed to find a final burst of determination, as if he understood that his rescuers would never abandon him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of pulling the completely exhausted elephant through the merciless waters, after exactly 12 grueling hours of non-stop rescue operations that began early Tuesday morning, the crew managed to bring him to the brink of salvation. This massive rescue operation had mobilized unprecedented resources: 4 naval vessels, 7 elite members of the Rapid Action Boat Squadron, multiple Navy divers, and a full team of Department of Wildlife officials, all working around the clock in what was described as a humongous task and miraculous escape. With tears in their eyes and their hearts pounding with relief, they brought him close enough to the lagoon and into water shallow enough for Jumbo to feel solid ground beneath his massive feet for the first time in over 12 hours. The moment his legs touched the ocean floor, the brave elephant summoned his last reserves of strength to walk the remaining distance to shore, each step a testament to his incredible will to survive. After the successful rescue, late Tuesday evening, the utterly spent and traumatized young elephant was formally handed over to wildlife officials for immediate medical care and evaluation. Though specific details of his medical condition were kept private, authorities confirmed that despite his terrifying 12-hour ordeal in saltwater, which could have severely damaged his sensitive skin, Jumbo was reported to be in remarkably good health. He was then released into the protective care of the Fowl Point jungle in the Trincomalee district, where he could finally collapse and recover from the most terrifying experience of his life. They knew that once he reached his safe sanctuary, he would probably sleep for many hours, perhaps days, to recover from this nightmare that nearly cost him everything. When reporters asked about the rescue, Navy spokesman Chaminda Walakuluge said it was really fortunate that they happened to be on a patrol mission in that specific part of the ocean. "We were just in the right place at exactly the right time," the officer explained to journalists. "They usually wade through shallow waters or even swim across to take a shortcut. It is a miraculous escape for the elephant. Our missions take us to different areas of the Indian Ocean, and we just happened to be where this elephant was fighting to survive," he added with emotion. They said it was truly a case of perfect timing and incredible luck. Thankfully, the elephant they called Jumbo made it safely back to the shore. What made this rescue even more remarkable was that Asian elephants like this magnificent male are an endangered species. These powerful giants can weigh anywhere from 4,400 to 12,000 pounds and stand up to 10 feet tall at their shoulders, yet only 2,500 to 4,000 of them have survived in all of Sri Lanka. Their population has faced a devastating decline, from 10,000 at the beginning of the 20th century to fewer than 2,000 by 1993, though conservation efforts have slowly brought the numbers back to about 6,000 today. Still, their population in Sri Lanka has tragically dropped by 65% since the early 1800s, making every single life precious. In fact, killing a Sri Lankan elephant is punishable by death under local law, showing just how valuable these magnificent creatures are to the nation. This wasn't the first time an elephant had shown incredible swimming abilities. Rajan, a famous 66-year-old Indian elephant who had died the previous year, was celebrated on YouTube and in movies for his remarkable swimming skills, gliding smoothly through water despite weighing 12,000 pounds. And this wasn't the only dramatic wildlife rescue that year. Just months earlier in May, the same naval forces and local residents had mounted an equally heroic mission to save a pod of 20 pilot whales that had become stranded in the same Trincomalee waters. Just 2 weeks later, this same naval team would face another crisis when 2 more elephants were swept out to sea in the same area, proving that Jumbo's rescue was not just lucky timing, but part of a growing challenge for these magnificent creatures in this biodiverse but dangerous region. Who could ever imagine discovering an elephant swimming far out in the ocean? Did you enjoy this story? If you saw an elephant swimming alone in the deep ocean, would you risk everything to save it, or would you think it was too dangerous to try? Let us know in the comments below. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't easy, but it's always worth it. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.